What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Zigzag Wrestling Club. My name is Corbin, and thank you for joining me here today. Today's podcast is all about the build-up to Night of Champions. Not a lot happened this week. Obviously, besides the Cody and Gunther stuff, that's pretty much it. Raw was a little bit interesting. Down in London, there was definitely some big story shifts over on Raw, which I did appreciate. But I actually didn't write too much down. So honestly, I'm going to be throwing in probably a lot of random questions. And I do have a pretty big rant for you guys. Because I listened to the Paul Heyman interview that was done by Chris Van Vliet, the GOAT, by the way. And he brought up a few points that I found extremely interesting. And I will touch on in this video. If you guys enjoy this content, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you're over on Spotify, make sure to follow and rate the podcast. Helps me out. If you have any questions for next week's episode, please drop a comment down below. Ask me anything, legitimately anything, and I will probably answer it, unless it's so insane. But it's got to be insane for me not to answer it. So let's just go ahead and hop right in. So, starting us off on SmackDown, we get Cody versus Gunther, which we have Sami Zayn as a special guest referee, which I got to be honest, the whole story right now with Gunther and Cody, I have been enjoying. I talked about that last week, but now we're getting the entrance, the infusion, you could say, of Sami Zayn. And you guys should know I'm not the biggest fan, but I actually think he is a key. He's a pretty important key to this story because he is the bridge. He's right now bridging the gap between ultra heel and babyface. And right now he's being treated more as a heel, even though technically, under a technicality, he is still a good guy. He doesn't fully understand why people are deeming him a bad guy, which I think is actually a kind of cool, like, it's not a gimmick change, not really, but it's a new thing for him to work off of, which I've been more excited to see him over on SmackDown just because I want to see where all of this stuff goes. I think, like, I don't dislike Sammy the person. I don't dislike his in-ring wrestling. I just think the shtick of being the underdog was just overplayed. But now we're getting this new stuff. Sammy actually doesn't turn on Cody during this match. Instead, he ends up basically giving himself a triple threat match at Night of Champions. So I thought the finish of this original match was very unique. It was like this roll-up fast count pin, obviously showing that Sami Zayn is still loyal to Cody Rhodes. But then, Gunther goes back, talks to Nick Aldis, he gets furious, and the match restarts, which I thought was weird, but at the same time was kind of cool. And then, of course, Gunther beats up Sammy. Sammy comes out, immediately hits him with a haluva kick, stops the match. Accidentally drops Cody as well. And then, of course, we end up getting this moment where Cody asks for a triple threat, which is where I wanted this to go. I thought it made the most sense that you'd have these three guys finally duel it out. They've actually built this up very well. I have enjoyed the story, like I was just saying. And I think at Night of Champions, there could be some shenanigans, perhaps, on the side of Sami Zayn, because I feel like in a match like this, if you wanted to turn Sammy heel, and this is probably the best time to do it, I feel like this is the moment you have him, instead of take out Gunther, I'm just kind of spitballing here, stay with me now. Instead of, haluva kicking Cody, instead of haluva kicking Gunther, he turns around and kicks Cody instead. And by kicking Cody, making that choice, he then gives the win to Gunther, which I wouldn't say that's a full heel turn, but that's a real start. And I would actually like if Gunther ended up getting the title, I guess, here. Cody's had it since WrestleMania, right? Longer than that? How long's Cody had this? Yeah, no, the SmackDown. He won it from Drew McIntyre. R.I.P. And he just got cast into another movie, by the way. So hopefully he comes back, or I don't know what the situation is with Big Drew, but I need him back immediately. But he's held this since that random SmackDown in like, what was it, February? Through WrestleMania. I think he's had a good reign. He's done fine. He's done Cody things with the Cody title. And I just think it'd be kind of cool to see the story between Cody and Sammy develop, considering they are friends. And they've kind of been building this thing up for quite a long time. And I feel like it would kind of be a waste if at Night of Champions you decided to still let Cody retain. Of course, I'm giving my Night of Champions predictions at the end of this video. So, or podcast, I should say. But so you kind of know where I'm leaning for this. But I just think it would kind of demoralize and diminish all of the work they've done to put the story together of Cody versus Sammy. And we could run with this all the way to SummerSlam in about a month and a half-ish is whenever SummerSlam is. Maybe even sooner than that. But we could take those few weeks, rebuild this Cody-Sammy storyline, get a little blood feud going, you know. One of my favorite things in the sport of professional wrestling, and I think it really makes sense here. So I'm hoping they do something fun here for these three. What's the funniest thing that has ever happened to you in a classroom? Let me take you back to high school. In my high school, it was definitely an odd group of kids. I know some schools where it's literally like everyone's an athlete and everyone only knows athletes. At my school, it was very like split up. It was like athletes, like band. We had a very good band. And then kind of like everyone in the middle, but I wouldn't necessarily say that there were odd groups out, but it was more like odd people out. And for me, like if I ever found someone to be odd, it wasn't because of what they looked like or what they wore or anything like that. It was because they would say the most ridiculous stuff ever. And I was like, this cannot be a real person. Cannot be real. And so this is kind of an example of that. So this is my junior year. Yeah, this is my junior year. And it is me, my best friend Jake, and a really famous basketball player that I know. Kind of famous, I guess. He is now. But and a few other people were sitting at this table, and on this particular day, you had to give a speech, a presentation, and you had to have a poster with you, I believe, a poster, a picture, like a slideshow potentially. And I remember, so what the project was about is you had to make a speech about how something positive affects people's lives, and it has to be on a certain topic that was given. So like, for example, because that was a really bad description, but it was kind of a weird project. I chose sports because I played sports, and that's pretty easy to make a speech about. And what I did was I talked about how meeting professional athletes, it may, as a young kid, it actually, I feel like, promotes a kid to do better because they have met one of those heroes and they've met someone that treats them normally, just like a normal human. And I think that that's really powerful for a young kid. Like me personally, like Pat McAfee. I met Pat McAfee whenever I was like 5, and it was the coolest thing ever. And I still remember it like to this day. And I just talked about how like influential athletes are, and how in certain situations, sometimes athletes don't act appropriately or do things they probably shouldn't, whenever realistically, like they have the biggest impact on our youth. So that's kind of what I talked about. One of my friends talked about vaccines in, like wrestling or something like that. Like people were kind of all over the board. Most people picked sports. Some people picked the positives of social media. This girl, we're going to call her, oof, this is really hard because now the only thing that's in my head is her name. We're going to call her Charlotte Flair because the Charlotte's right in front of me. Not that Charlotte would ever do this. And I'm going to try and round about her story in the best way I can. So we're giving these presentations, and the number one thing our teacher tells us, by the way, This teacher was an absolute chiller. He was the best. He was one of my favorite teachers I had in high school. And he was like, okay, guys, like some people have like different topics. Let's make sure to be respectful of what they're talking about. And we're like, okay, cool. This girl, notoriously was like, whenever she had her moment to say something extremely controversial, she would do it. So that's why she was considered kind of weird. So she comes into class, she's all like dressed up in her attire that she liked to wear. No hate on that, wear what you want. But she had like every spike imaginable on her body. I mean, like, if that's your thing, that's cool. But I'm talking like from head to toe, there were spikes sticking out of her clothing. And like most people for this speech, like I came in a golf polo and some khaki pants. That's what most people did. She was wearing that, which we were like, interesting. And so Charlotte heads up to the front and she's getting ready to give her speech. And I'm really going to try to around about this because I don't really want to exactly shout out the topic she decided to talk about. She basically talked about the very start. I think the first thing she said was that this group of people who shall remain nameless is currently inside of a mass genocide inside the United States. This was 2 years ago. I don't know what she was talking about. And so I was like, okay, this girl's gonna lose it. I can feel it. And so of course it's me, my best friend, a bunch of other friends, and we're all sitting at this one table. And so she says that, and immediately my friend Bray's head goes down, and he covers his mouth, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So now I start smirking, and so I see him laughing. I look over, the kid next to him starts laughing. My friend now starts laughing, so I start laughing. And so now it's 5 or 6 guys at a table, now all giggling because this girl is going off on a tangent that's, about a supposed to be positive speech about, not a positive topic at all. And so we get through this entire thing and we are all legitimately crying. Like tears are running down everyone's faces because we can't laugh. Our teacher, I'm pretty sure, said that we get points docked if we disrupt or laugh during someone's presentation. So we were all like literally like bold face crying, trying not to laugh. And it was legitimately the funniest thing I've ever sat through in my entire life. We get to the quote unquote end of Charlotte Flair's speech, and she says, we thought she wrapped it up, and everyone starts clapping, and she yells in front of everyone. She goes, "No, I am not done yet." And like that, and that was just the turning point, dude. We started wheezing, and thank goodness, obviously my teacher was such a chiller that he tried to like take over, and he was like, "Well, like you've already been like 2 minutes over your time," because it was like supposed to be a 5-minute speech. He was like, "You've gone 2 minutes over." And she goes, "Oh shit." In high school, which is like kind of a big no-no. And she goes, "Oh, I'll just keep going anyways." And we're all sitting there like die laughing now. And we're like, "Keep going. What else do you have to talk about?" She talked for 11 minutes about this unbelievably not positive topic. And we are all sitting there freaking dying because of how ridiculous she is. Like spilling your heart out about what you believe in is one thing. Doing it in school is another thing. Doing it on a positive topic, a supposed to be positive topic speech, is another thing. And then going over your time, swearing at the teacher, like, dude, all of the pieces together, it was like someone was legitimately testing us to see if we would laugh. And like, none of us got points docked. We all did a pretty good job. My teacher and I actually even talked about it like a few weeks later, and he was just like, "Yeah, I don't know what the hell that was." But that was probably the funniest thing that's ever happened in a classroom, just because it had the premise of we couldn't laugh. Like, we weren't supposed to, and it just made it even funnier. And the worst part is like, if I couldn't look, I couldn't pick my head up because I had my face covered, like with my hand above my eyes, looking down at the desk because I wanted to be paying attention. I couldn't just have my head down because I feel like my teacher would have like called me out or something. So I was staring straight down at my desk. If I looked up, if I looked to my right, if I looked catty cornered either way, I was screwed because I would have started dying because that's what happened whenever that whole debacle in the middle happened where she wanted to keep going with her very negative speech about weird topics and topics that aren't talked about on this podcast. But I looked over at my friend Jake, and it was genuinely over. I was crying. That's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. You're probably sitting on the other side like, this isn't funny at all. It was like, it's probably one of those things where like you would have had to be there, and if I were to fully explain what she was talking about, it'd probably be more funny. But it was just so unbelievable. If you have any stories like that, please drop them down below. I'd love to hear some funny stories. Especially what happens in like a high school classroom. There's a bunch of random stuff that happens. Why did it throw me off so bad when Tala Tonga talked? Okay, so he's a very large dude. He's like 7 foot, like 300. Like, this dude is massive. I expected like a deep, very rigid voice, and instead he just talks like a normal ass teenager. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, he just talks like me. He talks like me and every other dude that went to my high school, every dude in college. Like, he doesn't have this like deep Braun Strowman voice. Instead, he just sounds like a kid. It's so funny. Now, granted, he's probably like 25 years old, 20, not 8, 9 years old. Who knows? But still, like, people like Braun Strowman or people who are usually that big, or like Omos or Obafemi, like, these dudes' voices are so deep. This dude does not. It just caught me so off guard, and I'm not hating on him. I was just like, it was kind of like someone just like shot me in the face with a water gun. I was like, I was stunned a little bit. I just thought it was funny. The Danhausen part with Matt. This whole like Danhausen thing is just all this big spiral, and we're gonna keep talking about this a little bit later because it does end up happening on Raw as well. Matt gets shocked, and he says, "Woo, woo, woo," and then Danhausen says, "Whoa, are you okay?" And he goes, "You know it." I want to see how many of these catchphrases we can get from Big D, just because this whole gimmick, everyone who's not being used is in the Danhausen circle, and it's giving them TV time. So I will never hate on a Danhausen segment because they've been bringing people in like Los Garza and Matt Cardona and JD McDonough, who we see a little bit later. And it's kind of giving everybody their chance to just be a part of something, maybe sprinkle in some comedic gold like Matt Cardona just did. I thought what he said was just so funny. And I just wonder where this goes, which we're going to get to a little bit later on. Do I think I could be the head of WWE Creative and do a better job? Hell no. I don't think people quite understand how hard WWE Creative's job is. And I know that is not a very popular opinion. I know people are running down in the comments right now like, "Oh, well, did you see what they used to do back in the Attitude Era? The writing was so good." The Attitude Era didn't have the overlookings of TKO, didn't have NBC overlooking, didn't have the CW, didn't have the overlookings of Disney. Disney, that's basically TV God. And like on top of that, like ESPN, like everything now is just so damn regulated that I feel like I couldn't do a better job. I think that people in WWE Creative, and even like myself, I've given them so much flack, and I am gonna give I'm gonna give Bruce Pritchard crap, because I don't like him, and I think his opinions are extremely invalid, and I think he's an idiot. But everybody else that people tend to hate on, like people like Triple H, I don't think they quite understand what goes into creative, and this is a very unpopular opinion. But I think it would be so difficult to do what you wanted. Like me right now, I'm thinking like, okay, let me just pick a storyline and see if I can like free ball a story for you guys. And I could see like try and see where this would go. Okay, so let's do Danhausen, because we were just talking about him. Let's say Danhausen ends up shocking all these people, and he ends up with Matt Cardona, JD McDonough, the Garzas, Miz, and Kit Wilson. He ends up with this entire faction of shocked people. And what's going to end up happening? This is my idea that I'm pitching to WWE Creative and TKO and Disney and all these different producers. I'm like, okay, he's going to take this army of mind-controlled shocked zombies, and he's going to go around stealing money from people. And this is going to happen all the way until like friends of these people who've been shocked finally get together and fight them in a match at Survivor Series War Games. And they do a 5-on-5 War Games of shocked Danhausen curse people versus these 5 random people that want to save their friends. That's my storyline we're going off of. So if I pitch this to WWE Creative, me and a lot of people online would be like, dude, that's an awesome idea. That's so fun. That's never been done before. But here's what other companies would hear after I pitch this. They see a lovable character like Danhausen, and they say, oh, he's recruiting people to steal for him. That's not good. We don't want to teach kids and other people that it's okay to steal, I guess. Which kind of valid, but they'd say things like this, like Disney would be like, well, we don't want people promoting stealing from people. We don't want people trying to shock themselves because they want to be one of Danhausen's goons that he runs around with. Like, that's obviously not exactly what I like, an exact science of what I'm saying, but that's kind of like my my ring around this. I feel like there are so many stepping stones now that people have to be careful of because of all the overlooking producers and overlooking overlords, basically, that WWE has to follow. They have to follow so many guidelines. So do I think could be head of WWE Creative and do a better job? No. I think, like, just looking at this as a job, I think I wouldn't do a better job. But I think if they looked at me right now and let's pretend magically they bestow all of the knowledge of the WWE and I know everything about everyone, I know everyone's weakness. If this person's good on the mic, what this person's doing right now, what's the plan for WrestleMania in 2 years? What are they trying to shoot for? This and that. If I knew all of that right now, I think I could bring good ideas to the table. I'm pretty sure every person who watches WWE could bring a good idea to the table, just because everybody's got their own little niche that they like. Like maybe you, for example, you like this whole Austin Theory and Maxine Dupree thing, and you're like, let's get them together, power couple, and let's bring back the mixed tag belts. And Austin Theory and Maxine Dupree go against Dom and Liv Morgan and CM Punk and AJ Lee. And like you're throwing out all these good ideas. It's like, yeah, these are good ideas. I don't think that whenever people are posting this thing, like these stuff online, like, why didn't, like me included, why didn't Finn Balor win the King of the Ring tournament? Because that gives him a chance to finally go up against Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes, and he can finish his story finally by getting the belt back. The belt that he never technically ever lost. That belt that he held for one day. Like, yes, people have great ideas. But can these ideas get approved by higher ups? I don't think people quite understand that Triple H is not the highest person in creative. I have a feeling that there is a sneaky, shadowy person or people or group of people that overlooks Triple H as well. So everything he says yes to has to also be approved by other people, which sucks. Because realistically, now this is just a shot in the dark, this is a maybe, the people who are making some of these decisions maybe don't even watch the show. Maybe don't even fully understand what's going on. But they're just making decisions anyways because it's what they think is right. Maybe these people are the reasons that people like Aleister Black are no longer in the company. They don't like these dark, creepy characters. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So do I think I could be the head of WWE Creative and do a better job? No. No, I don't think I could do a better job. I bet I could bring some good ideas to the table that could be tweaked. I think, like I was just saying, I think anybody could. I think everybody has a valid opinion about some stories about the WWE, but it doesn't mean it's the right story. It doesn't mean that's what needs to happen. It just means that you have an idea in your head. It could be a good, it could be a bad idea. But at the same time, would it ever be approved by these higher up people? Would it ever make it through the grapevine? I don't know. I think that it's a lot tougher job than what certain people give it credit for. And like, I think it would be super stressful because obviously we've seen in the past, WWE likes the fans. They like to follow what the fans say, like Kofi Mania and the big push for Finn Balor doubling back to him. And, people wanted this, they wanted this giant push for, I don't know, a bunch of different things. And WWE tends to listen. But it doesn't always work out 100% of the time. And that's like kind of the problem is like they're not 100% straight shooting, which I think is what is making people upset. People think that, oh, if we cheer for LA Knight, then they're going to put the title on him. And like, yeah, you can do what you can. You can cheer him whenever he comes out. You can hit the LA Knight. Yeah, you can do all of that. But it doesn't mean that through the grapevine, it's actually going to come to fruition. So I think that sometimes whenever you're looking at creative and you're looking at the direction things are going, maybe just step back and think to yourself, this isn't Paul's fault. This isn't Bruce Pritchard's fault, even though it probably is because he's a scumbag. This is something out of our control. And it is. We are people behind a screen. I'm a dude talking into a microphone, talking to a camera that's coming out on his computer down here that I constantly look at. I'm nobody. They don't know who I am. It doesn't matter what I say. They can look at Twitter. They can look at Instagram. They can look at TikTok. Doesn't matter what people are saying on there. They're a billion-dollar company, a multi-billion-dollar company, and they do not give a damn. They have other things they have to take priority of. And I think fans do play the biggest part in the WWE. But if you really want something to happen, it's almost got to happen in person. Like what happened with R-Truth last year. He gets released. People are chanting his name, and they realize they made a mistake. They bring him back. That was not part of a storyline. They released him. They felt like his tenure in the WWE was over, and people made it known that this was a mistake. And I think that WWE Creative probably didn't have a ton of say in that, if I'm going to be honest. Now, I don't know. Like I just said, I'm just a 19-year-old behind a screen that you may or may not be watching. So I think that people need to give WWE Creative a little bit more grace. And if you are online saying that you could be head of creative and do a better job, I think you are just so unbelievably stupid and wrong. The match between Javon and Jay felt so raw. Yeah, so this was a great match. And I think people, again, are tending to forget that Jey Uso is a good wrestler. This might be my most hated episode of all time because I just defended WWE Creative and Triple H. And now I say that Jey Uso is a good wrestler. Man, you guys might come for my throat. I'm sorry, but Jay is a good wrestler. He's had his moments in the past, but recently, he's been doing such a better job. But it felt so real and it felt so raw because Javon's acting is incredibly good. People need to give him more credit in that regard, his selling, his acting, because, like, of course, his finisher's great. He's entertaining to watch. He's great in the ring. He's bouncy, but his acting really gets him over. He has great facial expressions, and he was constantly dealing with the rib injury the whole match, and that was kind of the deciding factor on why he ended up losing, and he played into that so well. And this was a really good match between these two. Probably my favorite Jey Uso match I've seen in a really long time, at least singles match, because these two kind of have a similar style-ish. They are both trying to be very fast-paced, action-packed, and it felt like their styles of wrestling really synced up well. Jey also just felt dialed in for this match. I haven't seen him in a match where he's just like, his timing has been spot on every single time. And of course, that leads to him picking up the win against Javon. And what I just said was a fantastic match. I had a lot of fun with this. But Jey picking up the win means that it is Jey Uso versus Oba Femi next week. And I'm going to give my prediction for that in a little bit. Liv Morgan wins against Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair hurts her knee. And Liv Morgan wins the Queen of the Ring side, and she's going up against Io and Night of Champions. What is WWE cooking with this? Why would you put your women's heavyweight champion into the tournament that decides who goes up against the world heavyweight champion? Are they trying to do like double belt Morgan? I feel like that wouldn't necessarily work. But again, I'm not WWE Creative, so I don't know what they're cooking. If they wanted to do Liv versus Rhea, which I think is what they're trying to run back, why don't you just have, I mean, I guess they did both just win the title kind of. But why don't, like, a little bit later on, you just have one of them drop the title and then go after the other one? You could just do that on a moment's notice. It's not like, oh, Liv would have to go to SmackDown, and then she'd have to beat Tiffany Stratton, and then she'd have to beat Jade Cargill. And no, she's first in line wherever she goes. It's freaking Liv Morgan. But you don't want to hurt Charlotte's momentum, so you have her get her knee hurt by Jade Cargill, probably starting up this little feud there that they're kind of continuing, I guess. And we give Liv the win. So now, if Liv Morgan wins the next round, she's the women's world heavyweight champion, and she's going to challenge Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam for the women's undisputed championship. What happens if she wins? Is she just double belt? I don't feel like she's had the momentum with her enough to be double belt Morgan. I'm sorry, and I really do like Liv. She's one of my favorite girls in the company. But she doesn't have a title defense. She hasn't defended her title one time, which is bad booking. But I don't fully understand what they're cooking with this. If they want to do Liv versus Rhea, that's a standout match. But then you're going to have this thing of, well, if Liv loses, it's almost like this tournament was for nothing. It didn't elevate any young talent because, like, even if you had someone like, screw it, if you put Maxine Dupree in this and she were to beat all these people and she wins the tournament and then she goes and faces Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam and she loses, it's like, okay, yeah, she lost to Rhea Ripley, but she still beat Charlotte Flair, Io Sky, Becky Lynch. Like, she still beat all these people to get here. Like, that's a really good push for someone like a Maxine Dupree, a younger talent, maybe a Lyra Valkyria, people on that level that are just trying to break their way into the main event scene. That elevates them. The problem here is, if you have Liv Morgan win, it doesn't elevate Liv Morgan because she's already the women's world champion. And then you're going to turn it around and she's going to lose to Rhea Ripley, making Rhea look like the stronger champion, making SmackDown look way better than Raw, especially in the women's division. Basically what I'm talking about. And now you're going to have Liv Morgan being a losing champion because she hasn't defended her belt. She loses to Rhea and has to go back to Raw where she has to now defend her title against other people. Like, this is kind of just a big momentum killer all around. I just think it's a bad idea. I don't really see a good outcome unless Liv Morgan wins the Undisputed Championship, which I don't really want because I like Rhea as the champion. So it's all kind of tough, right? This is all still up in the air. I'm not hating on this. I'm just concerned about the outcome. I'm concerned on the decisions made because Queen of the Ring and King of the Ring are to elevate talent. Obviously, look at the men's side. They did a great job. Three people under 30 won their respective matches, their qualifying matches. Javon Evans, Obafemi, Dominic Mysterio, and then, of course, Jay ended up winning. And, even though Jey Uso made it to the finals, he can still get that rub still. It's not like he's that old. He can still get that rub. He can maybe even win King of the Ring. Who knows? And then you have Obafemi in the finals, who's not even 30, I don't think. That's questionable, but I don't even think he's 30. Like, how cool is that? You have, no matter if Obafemi wins or loses, which he shouldn't lose, but he should if Brock gets involved or the OTC or, all that's up in the air, and we're going to talk about that later. But you got to think, why take someone who's already established and try and reestablish them again? It just doesn't really make any sense to me. Moving over to Raw. After losing the tag title match, Lyra Valkyria turns heel on Bayley. Awesome. Awesome. This was the best case scenario for her right now. I hadn't been talking about this because, honestly, anytime Lyra and Bayley were in a match or in a backstage segment, I wouldn't really talk about it. It really didn't have any huge implications. They were kind of just like, oh, we're going to challenge for the tag titles. Oh, we lost. Oh, we're going to challenge for the tag titles. Oh, we lost. Oh, it's a one-on-one match between Lyra and someone else. Oh, she lost. We needed this heel turn for her. She's been so stuck in this tag division spiral for too long, and I'm really excited to see her heel work. I didn't get to see her work as a heel down in NXT that much because I hadn't been watching. Bayley is the perfect person to have turned heel on in London. Any international area, people love Bayley. They cheer for her constantly. And you instantly got this booing reaction from the London crowd because you had the easiest pop available by having someone turn on Bayley, and it gives Lyra a boost in the heel era, in the heel division. I think this is a good move. I want to see her work differently. Def Rebel, please do not just absolutely lobotomize her theme song, but I'm excited to see where this goes, and I think you should be as well. Who is the most important wrestler on the roster? Give one male and one female. And why? Oh my gosh. Yo. I totally forgot I even put this in here. I put this in I guess I put it in yesterday. The most important wrestler on the roster. And if I don't say someone you're thinking of, please put it down in the comments. I'd love to know your reason why you put them there. The thing is the most important wrestler on the roster doesn't need to be the person holding the Undisputed Championship. Now, granted, Cody Rhodes is probably one of the most important wrestlers on the roster just due to, you need the golden boy to go kiss the babies and go to the meetings and fly out to Dallas and go to all these press conferences and media events and Fanatics Fest. And, you need someone like that. But I'm going to put that aside for this. Most important wrestler, all in all, if you're looking at the company, like the company as a whole, it's probably Cody Rhodes. It's definitely Cody Rhodes. But I want to look at just what's going on right now. It's going to make this even more of a controversial podcast. Because I want to direct your male attention. I want to direct it to Gunther. And I know Gunther is a hot topic right now. People do not like him. Here's why I think Gunther is so important. You need the bad guy heel that the babyface needs to conquer. And if anyone is going to be in that role to elevate a talent or let a young babyface or just even a babyface like Cody, let him get through his path of destruction on their way to the top, you need someone like Gunther. You need someone that people hate, but also people can't beat. He's easy to find, hard to beat, except if you're Cody, then you've beat him like 4 times. But we're not going to talk about that. I think that someone like that is so important because it helps build other wrestlers. It helps build other people. And Gunther does such a great job in ring. As much as everyone hates to admit it, he's fantastic. And he plays that perfect role of someone who can be the big boulder running down the path that you got to duck out of the way for, Indiana Jones style. So I think most important wrestler on the roster is probably Gunther or Cody Rhodes because he's carrying the company, which it's funny because they're both on SmackDown. Other people would say Roman. I don't think there's a wrestler in the roster that is not important. I think everybody plays their own role respectively, whether you're a jobber, whether you're a young gun trying to make a name for yourself, whether you're the biggest heel in the company and you can't even get a word out without people booing you, whether you're a guy that people send out, it's like, well, you're going to lose, but damn it, you're going to put on a 5-star match. You're going to steal the show. Everybody in a roster is very important. So I think my pick is Gunther. If you don't look at the the politics side of the company and just want to take the storylines and the roster just matter of fact, I think it's Gunther. One female, the most important female on the roster, it's Becky Lynch. It's got to be Becky Lynch or Bayley. Becky Lynch or Bayley, and kind of they're for the same reason. So I'm just going to lump them together. They are both so good at making younger talent look good. Becky Lynch has been the stepping stone for all of this young talent. Sol Ruca, Lyra Valkyria, Maxine Dupree. Those are the ones I've named just from this year. Alexa Bliss. She's put over Charlotte Flair, even though Charlotte probably put herself over. But we're not going to talk about that. Like, Becky Lynch has done so much good for the company just by helping the women's division grow as a whole. And she's helping all these young superstars just get so much better. And, they go into these feuds and people boo on Becky. But Becky is the one raising the other superstar. So I would say her. And let's also look at Bayley. Bayley constantly gets put against these people as well. She loses against these people all the time, giving them the rub, giving them the victory, making them look stronger than her. But it's still Bayley. She's gotten herself to the point where no matter if she loses, no matter if she wins, she still is Bayley. She's the role model. You can't really hurt her momentum ever. And I think that is also so important because she takes younger talent like Sol Ruca, like Lyra Valkyria, and she puts them around, she puts her wing around them, and she kind of guides them where to go. Like, I think Lyra and Bayley just actually finished their tag team thing together, Lyra turning heel, because I think Bayley finally was like, you don't really need me anymore. We don't need to be together anymore. Like, you know enough to go out on your own and be a single star. And I think there was a moment in time where Lyra was not ready to be a single star. As good as she was, I don't think she was 100% confident in her own abilities. And that's why they turned to Bayley to kind of help her out. That is also equally as important as having someone build up the younger talent like Becky Lynch. So I can't pick between the two of them. So I'm going to pick two for both. I'm going to pick Cody and Gunther on the men's side, and I'm going to pick Becky and Bayley on the other. If you have any other people you want to throw down, please comment. The speech that Chad gave to Alpha Academy was so heartfelt. the dude shed a tear. Like, it was such an emotional speech. Like, I almost got a little choked up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. This was, but the thing was, I wasn't getting choked up because it was like, oh my gosh, he's finally coming back together with the Alpha Academy. It's like this speech could just be applied to everyone. People cut off friends or go away for a long time because they have to better themselves, or they have to find out really who they are before they come back, and they have to say, I'm sorry for being so terrible to you. And what delivered it so well is just because like he was seriously almost crying. Like the amount of emotion that was showed by Chad Gable was just unbelievable. This dude can be a star. And I don't think people understand, like, I say that, like, oh my goodness, Obafemi's going to be a star. Austin Theory can be a star. Sol Ruka can be a star. Like, I say it a lot, and I do mean it. I think Chad Gable could replace Cody as the golden boy of the company. And I know right now you're thinking, like, well, that's stupid. He hasn't even won a title yet. He hasn't won a singles title yet. But I haven't seen someone give promos and fight and ring with as much emotion and tenacity as Chad Gable has in a long time. And do you know who he reminds me of? Dolph Ziggler. I think that there was something so special about Dolph because this was the only thing he cared about. Go back and listen to the promo he does against The Miz whenever he puts his career on the line. And he starts saying things like, I'm here every single night, and people around you are asking, why do you still do this? Why do you still torture yourself and commit to this stupid dream every single night? And he says, because I can't stop. I can't stop myself. He just loves it. He loves it so much. And if you go back and see that, I see the same emotional barriers being broken between these two. Chad gives out this speech where he's like, I was so terrible to you. I beat you down any chance I could. And you could literally feel the emotion building. And it's the same as what Dolph did. If you haven't seen that promo, you seriously have to go watch. It's my favorite promo of all time. Obviously, Zigzag Wrestling Club, shout it out. But this was just so cool. Like this one promo by Chad Gable just gave me like a new life. Like WWE's been like not flatlining. Like I'm not saying it's been bad. I've enjoyed it, but it's been missing something. Chad Gable threw this out there, and this was like a new breath of fresh air. It was so new and it felt so real, and I haven't had that in such a long time. He was talking about how Otis used to hold his kids in his arms and how he lost a friend for so many years. Like, that is real. Like, that is real. You saw the face of Otis like start to get choked up and get all emotional. And Chad is legit on the verge of shedding a tear. This was awesome. And doubling back to this whole could replace Cody as the golden boy, if he can just get to that level of over, I don't think there's anyone else who can show the amount of compassion, who can go to the media meetings, can go to Dallas, to go to, all the Disney, the ESPN, the TKO meetings and talk about creative. And there's no one else in the WWE right now who can be the quarterback besides Cody Rhodes, but the QB2, the backup quarterback who might have to go in at some point, I think it's Chad Gable. And I'm going to stand on that fact until I've been proven otherwise. Because what he's doing right now is fantastic. This leads to the Alpha Academy kind of turning heel. Maxine gives the best promo of her career. Hands down, $1,000,000%. This was her best promo. It literally gave me chills. Like she slaps Otis's hand out of the way and she looks and she's like, you're doing this because you're doing it for you. She said, you left us out to dry in this business, which she cooked. She showed some real mic skill, and she's not wrong. You got to remember that Chad Gable left the Alpha Academy and they weren't on TV for such a long time. And genuinely, she's right. Like, I thought the Alpha Academy was gonna get cut from the business. Like, what she's saying, everything she said was true. And again, she didn't do this whole thing that she used to do where she started screaming and she's like, Chad, I'm gonna break your ankle. Instead, she was so somber. She was somber and she was like, you left us out to dry in this business. You did this. You did this. You've done all these terrible things. And she was so deadpanned, like pissed off, focused at Chad Gable. Again, another breath of fresh air. This was the best Raw segment I've seen in such a long time. You guys don't understand like how much I love this. I'm trying to show my own compassion and own emotion to show you guys how much I really enjoyed this, but let's get this every week, please. Because this almost felt like an Alpha Academy heel turn, kind of. It's not like full-blown heel, but I think if Maxine were to turn, and maybe potentially the entire Alpha Academy, that could be so interesting. Because we've only seen all of them as baby faces. I don't think Otis has ever been a bad guy, just because he's so lovable. I also think another thing to look at is, could she actually be getting influenced by Austin Theory to make all of these heelish remarks towards Chad? Like, that's something you do have to think about. And is he connected to all of this? Like, we really don't know. I want to see that build as well. What if the Alpha Academy does go heel? Does this work because Otis is so loved? I really don't know. Because I feel like if you were to take Tozawa, who people love, if you were to take Moody Maxine, or as most people think, the absolute gorgeous Maxine, because she is, and that's why people like her. Becky Lynch talks about it on Stephanie McMahon's podcast. The reason that Maxine was so over was because she's gorgeous. I mean, if you don't think that, I mean, you're genuinely just lying to yourself. But even looking like that can get you over and can make people like you a lot. And that's what's happened with her. And on top of that, she's a very kind person. She meets with all these different people, and they say she's such a nice person. So you have Tozawa, and you have Maxine, and you have Otis, who people have been cheering for, and people, love him. If you were to turn them heel, I don't know how exactly it would go. I'd love to see. I wonder if they do this thing where Otis turns on the Alpha Academy. Does Chad finally get through to them? Does Maxine walk out on the Alpha Academy and she goes and does something with Austin Theory? Like, these are all things you got to think of. And I'm sat down in my seat, popcorn ready, every time these guys are on the screen from now on. Dragon Lee's table jump is genuinely so unbelievable. I've said this like time and time again, every time it happens on an episode of Raw. I don't care. Most unbelievable move to do on like weekly TV. Shout out. Ethan Page ends up winning the match. They put on an absolute banger. Not shocked. I saw this matchup on the card. I was like, okay, Dragon Lee, a dude who can go, a dude who is fantastic in the ring. Cool. He's going to cook. Oh, we got Ethan Page, one of the best in-ring storytellers we've ever seen, who just got brought up from NXT. He's on this awesome little heel run right now. Perfect. Let's see these two cook together. They did not disappoint. Io Sky versus Liv Morgan this weekend is going to be a banger. They had a little promo segment I just want to chuck in here. Io said, "Are you sure that crown will fit on that big head?" That got a big pop from the London crowd. These two together always have worked well, I feel like. And I'm interested to see where this goes. Kind of like what I was talking about earlier. Do they have Io stomp out Liv Morgan and go face Rhea Ripley? Potentially. Do you have Io win, immediately go against Liv Morgan because she already beat her? Does Liv win, become double champ? Like, there's all these different branches we can take, and we just kind of got to sit back and wait. There's nothing else for us to do. On paper, what's some of the worst gimmicks that's just happened to succeed? So I'm just gonna shout out El Grande Americano. You guys know that. I'm not gonna move any further with that, obviously. So I would actually point everyone's attention to Danhausen. And I love him. He's awesome. He's hilarious. I got my dad some merch from Big Danhausen. So we can't be cursed. We gave him human monies. So I just think that if you're looking on paper, if you were to give me a file and it was like, here's a new character we want to debut, and I'd be like, okay, maybe I am running WWE Creative at this time. And I see blabbering idiot with face paint curses people and asks for human monies and acts like a evil scientist. I'd read this and I'd be like, what in Sam hell are you thinking? Well, what are you thinking? Because on paper, like, you have to think to yourself, like, that's not gonna get over, right? And I wouldn't necessarily call this the worst gimmick, but I'm just thinking, like, on paper, if you were to read this, you'd be like, well, like, that's not gonna be the #1 merch seller in all of WWE. That's not gonna outsell Yeet, Jey Uso. That's not gonna outsell LA Knight. That's not gonna topple over the OTC once to the sky, Roman Reigns. Like, what he has done for having this gimmick. And you see him talk about this. He goes and he trains with a group of young professional wrestlers, and they're in a training camp, and he's sitting on the edge of the ring, and he's saying, like, if you think you have to be the biggest guy and you have to do the best moves and, be the greatest promo giver of all time, like, and he basically says you don't have to do that. You just have to be your own unbelievable personality. And he's not wrong. And a lot of people say, like, most wrestlers are just themselves turned up to 11. And he doesn't play that. He plays, in his words, a blabbering idiot, which he is. And on paper, this is I wouldn't call it a terrible gimmick. That's not what I'm saying. But it's very weird for the current state of WWE. I feel like right now, the reason why Danhausen is so successful is because all we have right now is just like, guy who's going to go beat him up. Guy who's going to go beat him up. This girl is going to go beat her up. Like, we have all of these real, like, head smashing superstars that we forget we want someone that is a blabbering idiot. I think Danhausen on paper is succeeding because it's so far north. It's so far out of the box that it's just working. So that's a gimmick that I think is just fantastic, and it succeeded, but it was just a little unexpected. There we go. Leads into our next thing. JD gets cursed and then immediately shocked. What's the end goal with the Danhausen shock victims? Like I said, I was kind of like teasing at this earlier with my whole spiel about the WWE Creative. I think that if they were to do this thing where Danhausen starts controlling people, somehow it would be so freaking funny. But what will JD start to do since he was shocked? Like, he's supposed to get a match. He got cursed. First of all, how can JD McDonough be any more cursed than he already is? Someone get JD to the damn doctor. He's got a match against Chad Gable next week, which is going to be a banger. A banger. And, like, all this stuff's happening to JD. Love it so much. Love him getting TV time, match time, all of this. But the whole shock victim thing, it's like everyone's starting to say, like, their old promo lines and old catchphrases. Well, JD doesn't really have one. He was just sitting there, like, spasming with his arm because he was like, I got shocked. I got shocked. Take me to the hospital. It was so funny. It was, again, this is why Danhausen works, because it's so far out in left field that it just kind of, like, relaxes the brain. And it's like, okay, this is our moment to soak in the Danhausen universe right now. So much fun. Can't wait to see what they do with JD. What's next? LA Knight and Big Jim cooked up a nice little match, and then Solo gets involved to spoon feed the win to LA Knight. I wonder if this like loose alliance will form with LA Knight and the MFT to stand against the Bloodline, because realistically, if you're looking at this from an outsider's perspective and you are not like, oh, well, obviously the Bloodline's the good guys because it's got Roman Reigns and Roman Reigns is the good guy, and it's got Jey Uso and Jey Uso's Mr. Yeet, and he's with Jimmy, which Jimmy is the good guy, if we're being honest. But if you looked at this from an outsider perspective, the Bloodline are the bad guys. They are going over to SmackDown, telling Solo Sikoa that he has to come back and acknowledge the tribal chief. He has to do all these things, and he just doesn't want to do it. It's cool. What they're doing right now is cool, and I like it a lot. And I think if LA Knight were to band together with Solo Sikoa, we could get a really interesting, I guess, 6-man tag, because we'd get Talatonga. We'd get Solo Sikoa. We'd maybe get Tama Tonga in there. Who knows how we'd play around with this. But if we also get LA Knight involved, which he should get involved because he's been involved with the Bloodline for so long, we get something real cool. What's a moment that still makes you cringe years later? I randomly thought about this because I got a thing in my photos earlier today, or no, yesterday. And it was like 3 or 5 years ago today, whatever it was. And it was like a TikTok that I made. Every TikTok I made, you might even still think they're cringy because I'm sitting here talking about professional wrestling. But I don't find those cringy. I think they're kind of informative. I think they're really fun. I think talking about this is so awesome. I'm so unbelievably grateful to be doing this. But what I used to post as a kid was like, I did one terrible dance, but it was like a popular dance at the time, and then I try to make like funny videos that were PG because I didn't want to swear because I thought my mom would get really mad at me. And so all of those videos are like really terribly acted, stupid concept videos that every time I see, I cringe. The worst one. And my friend, of course, has it saved. He plays it to all my friends that he meets because he just embarrasses me, and that's why he's my best friend. But it's a video of me and two of my still current friends that I still talk to all the time. We go to it's a WNBA game, which, by the way, we didn't watch any of it. But we made a TikTok where it was right before COVID, and we made a TikTok talking about how everyone was freaking out about COVID, and then we were like standing still, and it just said, "Us not giving a crap," is what it said along the top, because we didn't give a crap about COVID, and we had stupid sunglasses on. And I mean, I was in 7th grade. I was a young kid. I thought it was funny, but that makes me cringe so hard. I literally can't even like think about it even right now. It's so bad. The main event tag team titles match, Vision versus Street Profits, fantastic. Joe Hendry gets involved. That was awesome. He gets a huge pop. It was fantastic, but it makes sense. This story makes a lot of sense because Joe Hendry was taken out by Austin Theory. He returns to get his revenge. He chases off Logan Paul, and Seth then returns, which, again, progresses the story of Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins. And he hits Theory with the brass knucks. Everything goes full circle. Big spine buster from Dawkins, and then a from the heavens from Montez Ford to win the match. Your new tag team champions, the Street Profits. So excited for them. Let's give them a long, luxurious, match-filled run with the tag titles, and I'm so excited to see what they do. Which wrestlers became successful and shocked you? It's my final question on here. The wrestler so I'm going to start off with the obvious one for me, Cody Rhodes. And it's not because I thought Cody Rhodes was bad back in the day. It's because whenever I stopped watching for that brief period, this dude was stardust. he was the dashing Cody Rhodes who I loved, and then all of a sudden became Stardust, and he started hissing at people and doing cartwheels and standing up and hissing at little kids in the front row on top of the barrier. Like, I, whenever I was younger, I loved him, but looking back on it, it's like they wanted this dude to fail. And, unbeknownst to me, because I had stopped watching, he leaves the company. And I think even there was a time where he left the company and I was just too young to, I just didn't really understand that he had left. Because I'm pretty sure he wasn't on TV for a very long time until I, stopped watching. But I remember the day I started watching wrestling again. My friend, who is the one who always shows the cringy videos to people, he goes, "Hey, you ever used to watch WWE?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah." And that was such a weird moment as well, because it wasn't like I hated the WWE and I stopped watching because I didn't like it. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like I had just forgotten about it. It's like someone took a little mind wipe gun and just shot me with it. And it was like WWE, like turning it on a Monday night was just erased from my brain. It had been so many years since I had watched it. And I was like, it like all came rushing back to me. I was like, oh my gosh. And immediately the first thing I said was like, oh yeah, I used to watch The Shield and all this stuff. And he was like, wait, you used to watch The Shield? And he told me about what happens during this this WrestleMania 40 main event. And I remember I was like, oh my gosh, wait, who'd you say defeated Roman to become the world heavyweight champion? And he goes, oh, Cody Rhodes. And I remember thinking, the hell? Cody Rhodes? I was like, how far deep did this company go? Are they bankrupt? Like, I literally was like cheesing ear to ear. I was like, they fell so hard. Cody Rhodes is now the champion. And, obviously I didn't know the whole story at that point. But if we're looking at which wrestlers became successful and shocked you, it's Cody. Cody is now the golden boy, QB1. And he, like the last time before obviously that moment, the last time I watched him, like I said, he was hissing at people with a star on his hands. Like, it's so cool to see him succeed. And it really is. Another one is Roman. Because whenever I started watching, people were booing a babyface because they hated him so much. They did not want to see Roman anymore. And it almost seemed like this thing where I liked Roman. I thought he was cool, but I like Seth Rollins more, obviously. But it was this thing where I was like, well, this guy will never really make it, I guess, because everyone hated him. Granted, that ends up working out in his favor a few years later with the whole tribal chief bit. But that was another one where people are now considering him like a top 10 wrestler all time. And young me would have never thought that. Another one, Drew McIntyre. I didn't really watch Drew McIntyre. The only bit I had seen from him was whenever he was in the 3-man band. And he was kind of just a nobody. That's why whenever I ended up seeing him again for the first time, whenever I started watching, I was like, oh my gosh, Drew McIntyre, this dude's a behemoth. And then it started clicking for me. And I was like, is this the 3MB guy? Yeah, it is. So he's another one. Like, he became so massively successful, multi-time world champion. He's yoked. He's awesome. I love Drew McIntyre. I want him to come back so bad. But that shocked me as well. And if you want me to throw a girl in there, Alexa Bliss. And by the way, none of these are because I didn't think they had the talent to do it. I just was under the impression that they were not what WWE was looking for, I guess. Alexa Bliss, to me, in the division, whenever I stopped watching, it was literally just like certain people were getting the belt. And maybe Alexa Bliss was winning it at this time whenever I stopped watching. I don't really remember. I don't think she was. But I remember her just being this like bubbly, small girl who like everybody liked and she was great. But I didn't think she'd be like this massive star. She'd go on to work with Bray Wyatt and 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 she'd become this dark, like, demon doll character who would have so many layers to her that she became so successful. Whenever she came back, she had the biggest pop of the year at the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis. You couldn't even hear her music. That's how successful she is. I just would have never expected that from Alexa Bliss. And she's one of those people I'm like so happy for. I think it's so freaking awesome that she has gotten to that level. So those are people that shock me about how successful they've gotten. If you have any ideas, drop them down below. I'd love to hear your takes on this. But those are just the Roman, Cody, Drew McIntyre, and Alexa Bliss are the ones that I have put on here. I also put Danhausen, but I already talked about him. I'll quickly brief over him. Becomes successful. He debuts in a box. Everybody hates him. He gets booed out of the building. Exactly 1 week later, people are like, "Yeah, that's my guy." #1 merch seller in like a month. Unbelievable. GOAT. Ladies and gentlemen, one last thing to do. It's the Night of Champions prediction. Let's switch it over here. We got Cody Rhodes, your champion, versus Gunther versus Sami Zayn. I think, so I was kind of mentioning this earlier, just kind of teasing it. I think there's a gamble, I guess, in the eyes of creative, but I can see this scenario where you let Gunther win. The reason I'm going to pick Gunther is because Cody's had it for a long time. He's done a great job with the title. He's elevated the title. But if you could give Cody some time to have a real one-on-one feud, no championship, and he can work with Sami, that also gives Gunther the ability to go work with other people. The problem now is that if you do Cody versus Gunther versus Sami and Cody wins, you can't just take Gunther and say, well, you got to go after the United States Championship now. That doesn't work anymore. You can't send a guy like Gunther down to the mid card. It doesn't work like that. He retired Goldberg. He retired John Cena, and he retired AJ Styles. And he was gonna retire probably Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio if they, if all that stuff didn't happen. And there's a whole nother can of worms that we could unlatch here. But I'm picking Gunther because Gunther could be a champion. That's one story. Cody versus Sami, that's another story. If you have Gunther lose, he's just going right back at Cody Rhodes because that's kind of just the kind of character he is. Unless you were to start up some random feud by having Gunther get screwed over or something of the sorts. I'm picking Gunther. I think he can hold the title for a long time. I think he's going to look great with this title. It's going to be cool to see someone chasing after the title instead of Cody like giving out all of these matches. And potentially we see Cody chasing after the belt again, which of course he did a great job as that role. So give me Gunther. Screw it. Jey Uso versus Oba Femi. This is a tough one. This is tough. Obviously, this is a 50-50. Brock gets involved. Jey wins. Jey goes on to face Cody or Gunther again. And whoa, that's a whole nother thing I didn't even think about. If Gunther wins this, we get to run back Jey versus Gunther potentially. Or we could have this cool thing where Jey ends up turning and going up against Roman and potentially winning the title from Roman or something of the sorts like that. I think that oh man, now you guys are really going to hate me. You guys are really going to hate me. I think that there is more benefit in having Jey Uso win. There's so many stories you can play off of with this, and I think it's the best idea. And that's no hate against Oba. Nothing wrong with Oba. But I just think that Oba needs to go up against Brock. Brock's probably going to get involved. Give me Jey Uso to win this match against Oba Femi. Screw it. Why not? Queen of the Ring Tournament Finals, Io Sky versus Liv Morgan. Again, I've been talking about this. I think that Io Sky winning would be good because that's a little bit of a rub to Io. Though on the other side of it, why would you have your women's world champion lose to probably her main competitor for the title, and then Io would probably just challenge Liv Morgan again, right? And then if, that kind of just feels like a waste. Like I was saying, I feel like you would have had the opportunity to take a young talent and let a young talent challenge Io Sky and maybe get the rub and go on to face someone like a Rhea Ripley or a Liv Morgan at a stage like that. Just Liv Morgan winning doesn't make a ton of sense unless she becomes a double champion. If she, like I was saying, if she loses, if she does win this match against Io and she goes on to face Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam and she loses, you just stabbed the Queen of the Ring in the face. You stabbed it, you lit it on fire, and you ran it over with your Prius. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense why you would have Liv Morgan run the gauntlet just for her to lose again. It just feels like a waste of time. I feel like it would make sense for Io to win. But again, then it's like, okay, I face Liv Morgan because I just beat her. I just beat her in this tournament. I have no clue on earth what they're doing. I feel like this is such a 50-50. There's got to be something behind Liv Morgan. Maybe Raquel and Roxanne turn on her. Maybe that's the reason they wanted to set up a big enough stage like a women's Queen of the Ring final at Night of Champions. They wanted to set up that big of a stage for them to turn on Liv Morgan. Potentially? I don't know how that all works, because then what do you do with Dominic? Does Dominic stay? Does Dominic go make out with Roxanne Perez? I mean, not bad, kid. But I feel like it's got to be Io. Does it have to be Io? I feel like they wouldn't put the world champion in here if they didn't have a reason. I'm going to pick Liv Morgan. And I just want to see where they go with this. I need to see something. Something. Next, we have Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker in the steel cage. What a banger we're in for. You got to have Seth finish his story. I think that's the whole game plan here. You have Braun Breaker go out and do his thing and be the bad guy and do the bad things and beat up Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins becomes kind of this babyface now. And it gets to a point where you have to think to yourself, you got to let Seth win. Now, Seth might give Braun Breaker the rub here and give him the win, but you want Seth Rollins to be finished with the vision. He wants to be past all of this stuff. And if he wins this match, Seth Rollins is no longer stuck in this vision vortex, and Braun Breaker can go on to new heights. He can maybe go challenge the OTC at some point down the line. Maybe Seth Rollins ends up winning the belt from Roman Reigns and they run it back later at WrestleMania. There's all these different possibilities. He could go back for the IC title. He could, change brands and go after Cody Rhodes or Gunther or Sami Zayn. Whoever the hell wins this match. Like, maybe even the US title. He goes after Trick Williams. They have beef. I think that there's a bunch of different outcomes if Braun Breaker loses. And I feel like it's better for him if he loses, so give me Seth Rollins. Tiffany Stratton, your champion, versus Jade Cargill for the Women's United States Championship. This could also be a sneaky banger, you guys. And I think that this is another tough one, because you have Jade Cargill building this faction. Tiffany Stratton's had the belt for a decent amount of time. She's had good defenses. She's been a good champion. But do you put it on a heel now? Do you put it on a heel like Jade Cargill and see what she can do with it? She's got her goons, Beef Abamichin. Does Chelsea Green get involved here somehow? I'm kind of just curious. I'm curious if we get this thing where maybe Tiffany Stratton loses and Chelsea tries to help her out. And it doesn't quite go to plan. And Tiffany basically blames it on Chelsea. And then Tiffany turns on Chelsea, turning Tiffany Stratton heel and Chelsea Green, which she already is a baby face, but a full-blown baby face. And now Chelsea Green gets to ride this high, potentially to SummerSlam to face Tiffany Stratton, and then ride that high to Money in the Bank, where she will inevitably win. I think you let Jade Cargill win here potentially. Screw it. I'm gonna say Jade Cargill. Am I changing champions? Oh yeah, I guess I have twice. Yeah, give me Jade Cargill here, just because I think there's so many different avenues and different streets and different drives you can go on by giving Jade Cargill the win here. And I guess I'm only basing it off of if Tiffany turns on Chelsea Green, which I guess is pretty stupid. But even if that doesn't happen, who knows what they could be cooking up? Trick Williams versus Ricky Saints. Ooh. Trick Williams. Tricky 2 times, Mr. Lemon Peppa Steppa is going to retain his title. There's no way Ricky Saints wins. They're obviously just trying to build up the U.S. title scene a little more. I don't see any way Trick loses this. Ricky Saints is just another stepping stone. It's going to be a good match, but I don't really have much to say. There's just no possible chance Ricky Saints wins. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your Night of Champions predictions. If you guys have enjoyed this podcast, make sure to like and subscribe, drop a follow, rate the podcast. Much appreciated. If you want to see other content coming out, go check out my YouTube at @the_ZWC. You can find it, or Zigzag Wrestling Club over there as well. This was a very long podcast. I didn't think it would be this long, but I had so many rants and we had so many great moments this week. Once I started really getting into the nitty gritty of what I thought, I didn't realize how long I rambled for. So if you stayed for the whole thing, guys, I really appreciate you. I hope you have a great week. Make sure to tune in for Night of Champions. Remember, next Monday is a special start time of 6 Eastern. And I think Night of Champions starts, I have no clue. It's in Saudi Arabia, so probably 2 or something like that, right in the middle of the day, like everybody loves. But, it's okay. We get wrestling on a weekend, which I love. I can't wait until we see what goes on SmackDown, possibly leading towards whatever happens on Night of Champions. So I'm really happy you guys sat in with me. I really had a lot of fun during this podcast. It really felt kind of emotional because we were talking about all these great topics, and I really hope you guys could enjoy it with me as well. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day.